All right. I think we are going live. There's a bit of a delay, so I'll just wait to make sure that everything's fine. Yeah, I think cool. We are doing it. Hey guys, this is like the first stream that I actually made it on time for. Yes! Thank you everyone for showing up here. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie Logan. So right off the bat, I want to say it's in the title, it's in the top line of the description. I'm going to say it right here. We are going to spoil all of the things. So if you're coming here for a spoiler-free discussion, I apologize. But also, you know, there's a live chat full of people who will probably spoil it for you anyway, even if I don't. So, what's going on, everyone? I just wanted to say really quickly, not Logan related at all, if you can indulge me. I actually just got in the mail some new business cards, and I have not even looked at them yet. So that's what I'm going to do right now, just very briefly. I want to kind of, I think it's this way, kind of check them out a little bit. I haven't updated my business cards in years, just to show you what I was working with before. I had these bad boys, and they say like NerdSync Productions on the back here. They've got my name, email address, Twitter, all that stuff. The fronts have different characters and such on them. They're very thick. They're very almost awkward and bulky. And I kind of want to check out these new ones. They're much smoother. I went with just very simple, you know, very clean, very simple. And then it just says my info there. So these are much better, I think, for me. I have a habit of not giving out my business cards. Like I'm just too, I don't know. Like I spent so much money on them. I don't want to just hand them out to people, but like that's the whole point. Anyway, so with that out of the way, these are really cool. With that out of the way, let's talk about Logan, shall we? And we do have the super chat up if anyone wanted to do that thing. We had a lot of fun with it last time. So yeah. Let's talk about it. So, Logan, first and foremost, did everybody see it? I thought it was a ton of fun. I walked out of the theater genuinely. There were moments where I was basically crying. If I wasn't surrounded by people, I would have just sobbed. I would have just completely fallen apart. But I did shed a couple tears, especially during that final shot of the movie was just amazing. But let's talk. Should we talk about the Deadpool thing first? That started it off. My movie experience was there was this kind of brief, almost like a Marvel one shot, but for the X-Men stuff, and it was just a brief little Deadpool thing. I think they released it online earlier. That was a ton of fun. I felt like it may have lasted a bit longer than it needed to, but it was. I wasn't expecting to see Deadpool there. It was awesome. He wasn't in the movie itself. There was a lot of talk about that, like whether Deadpool was going to make an appearance in the movie himself. And I'm glad he didn't, because that would have messed up the tone of the movie. But even having him at the beginning was really cool. Yeah, it was a very nice surprise seeing Deadpool there. It was awesome. But yeah, and then the movie started. It started with this crazy action scene where we got to kind of see how Logan was going to be, how the movie forward was going to be, because he was chopping off limbs. He was slicing people's like jaws off. It was brutal. And it was everything that I know that I and many other people have been waiting for in an X-Men film, in a Logan Wolverine movie, is him just finally letting loose. And it's actually a nice kind of I don't know, difference from the comic book, which will spoil the comic book too. So if you haven't read that, spoilers. But in the comic book, he doesn't. Part of his thing is he doesn't want to use his claws. He doesn't want to fight anymore. He's there to help Hawkeye get money, and that's it. So he could pay rent and all that stuff. But in the movie, it starts with him popping out those claws and just slaughtering a bunch of people. It was awesome. And yeah, I don't know. It almost felt like it was the opposite. So like where the comic book was saying, well, I don't know. It kind of worked in tandem with the comic book, because the comic book, right? He didn't use his claws until the very end of the story, when he finally had a reason to. And now we can actually view that in the terms of Hugh Jackman's whole career as Wolverine, right? And we could say, well, yes, he's used his claws, obviously, but not like this. So this is the time when finally he lets loose, and it was so good. I was such a fan of it. Was there I didn't see a Stan Lee cameo. Sorry. I mean, I didn't see it. I keep apologizing for like spoilers, but spoilers is in the title and in the description. There's going to be spoilers everywhere. So, yeah. I thought X-23 was amazing. Like, I was worried at first, right? Because they showed the two claws in her hands, and then there's this moment where she's fighting a bad guy in her first fight scene. She's just fighting a random henchman, and then she kicks him. Like, he's got her arms pinned, and then we kind of, like, the camera looks at her foot, and I'm like, oh, here comes the foot blade, and then no, she just kind of kicks him, and I was like, wait, are they not doing feet blades in this interpretation? That doesn't. Why would they do that? And no, but they did, and it was so cool. I've been a fan of X-23 since X-Men Evolution, because even back then as a kid, I didn't know that she debuted on that show. I thought she was a comic book character that maybe I just didn't hear of, but I was like, oh, cool, this character's awesome. And I'm so excited that she finally was in a movie, and it was so much fun. Her dynamic with Logan, with Charles, with the kids and everything, it was so, you really felt for her at the end. God, it was so cool. The story obviously changed a lot from the comic book. Instead of Logan and Hawkeye going to deliver super soldier serum to like this kind of sting operation set up by the Red Skull, which was, and then of course all the Hulk family being there, all of that would have been, obviously they couldn't do that because they didn't have the rights to almost all of those characters, but it would have just been a little confusing, I think. But I do wish there were dinosaurs in this movie. Not really. Maybe, I don't know. That'd be cool. Wolverine riding a dinosaur, be a good way to send him off. But they did a really good job, kind of remedying the story, with having it all make sense, having Professor X be there instead of Hawkeye, having the delivery be X-23 instead of super soldier serum, and having the the villain. So obviously there are a couple villains in this movie. There's like Xander Price is I think his name, and there's when there was a big antagonistic force reveal of what that was. They kind of tease it at the beginning that there's another clone out there, right? That there's they're working on another weapon, an X-24, but when it was revealed who that was, obviously it makes sense because he's a clone, right? But I was like, I wasn't expecting them to just get Hugh Jackman to play both the villain and the hero in this movie, but it makes sense, guys. Nobody can fight Hugh Jackman but Hugh Jackman. Oh. Yeah, that was awesome. I thought I did feel like the clone felt weird. It really did. I don't know. it was interesting to me the way they set it up, because it was, Professor X who was thinking he was talking just to Logan, and then the clone comes in and stabs him, which was also kind of a weird way for Professor X to go too, because it didn't feel very climactic to me. It didn't have that punch that I wanted his death to have. It was just, he realizes all the horrible things that he's done, which we can speculate on in a bit, but and then the clone of Wolverine stabs him, and then that's kind of it, like that, and then we move on. But yeah, so we're getting a lot of different reviews here. The clone felt a bit weird. Some people are saying the clone felt fine. I wanted to talk about Professor X's kind of last big moment, because they hint on early in the movie that he did something terrible. He did something terrible at the X-Men mansion, at probably to all the other X-Men. And in the comic book, right, there's this amazing reveal. Spoilers again. I know people are dropping in and out, so they might not know necessarily that we're doing lots and lots of spoilers for both the movie and the comic. But in the comic, what happens is Logan is tricked by Mysterio to think that a whole bunch of villains are attacking the X-Mansion, right? So he sees like Doc Ock, he sees Scorpion, he sees all these villains come in, and Mysterio is tricking him to think that they're real, and Wolverine just goes on a gigantic killing spree, just saying, not today, not this time, I'm gonna put an end to it. And when the curtain is pulled back, he sees that, oh no, he just slaughtered all of the X-Men. He killed every one of them. And that was the reason why he didn't want to use his claws anymore, the reason why he didn't want to fight. And in this movie, they kind of reverse roles a little bit, where they have Professor X be the one that did something horrible. And it's never really talked about. It's always talked about in vague terms. And I think that's a good idea, because it just allows us to build up what this horrible thing in our head is. It could be anything. And I think, whatever we have in our heads is probably worse than whatever would have been the actual explanation had they explained it in the movie. And when Logan says it wasn't me, because the clone stabs Professor X, and obviously Charles, there are some visual differences between the clone and Logan, but not that much. And to the point where even other people were confused about which one was which later on in that scene. But, he could have easily thought that Logan was the one who killed him, because it just makes the most, it doesn't make sense, I guess, but it makes more sense than like, oh yes, and also there's a clone that randomly showed up. So yeah, in his mind, he was probably thinking Logan killed me for some reason, because even earlier in the movie, Professor X makes this grand statement. He like yells at Logan saying like, "You're just waiting for me to die." So yeah, I think when he says like, "It wasn't me," when Logan is like kind of comforting him in his last moments, and he's like, dude, he's like, Charles, I promise you, it wasn't me. Don't die thinking that I was the one who killed you. Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah. Professor X, Professor X had a seizure. He killed all the X-Men. That's most likely what happened. But what I was trying to say is, if they went into grand detail, like even if they showed flashbacks of it, if they got all the actors back, which would have been awesome. But if they had actually talked more in detail about it, then it would have kind of ruined that vagueness that I think built it up a little bit more and made it more interesting. Yes, the movie is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. Is Mysterio in this movie? No. They take all of that stuff out and replace it with, Charles was the one who killed everybody. And honestly, I was thinking they would use Charles as the Mysterio role, because he has that ability to make people think, to see things that aren't really there, to cause illusions. And so I thought in one of his seizures, he didn't just, have a seizure and then all the X-Men died around him. I thought they would have said that he casted that mental illusion on Wolverine that all these villains were attacking, and then Wolverine went and killed all the X-Men. And that's kind of why they have this almost bitter relationship between each other, because Wolverine knows, well, I have to take care of him because of all the, because he needs someone to take care of him. But at the same time, he made me kill all of my friends. But yeah, they left it very vague, so who knows? What did I think of the scene where Laura turns the cross into an X? It was, I said this earlier, but like, if I wasn't surrounded by strangers, right, I would have absolutely broken down and started sobbing like a baby. Tears were coming out of my eyeballs. I didn't expect to get so emotional in this movie, but man, holy cow, it was amazing. That moment, and the other one where I started crying was when Charles died, and then, oh my God, I'm gonna start crying right now. Was when Charles died and Logan was burying his body, and he was like, there's no place for, I don't have a place. It's right here is fine. There's water. There's water, and it was just, God, so beautiful and so heart-wrenching. It was, God. That was so good. I didn't cry necessarily at Professor X's death, but I cried at his funeral. Man, this movie just, I tweeted this out after I watched it, but I was not prepared for anything this movie was going to throw in my face. I walked away as sad and depressed as I possibly could be. It was the best. It was the best. I'm gonna say it. It's in the title. I think it was the best X-Men Wolverine movie. I think it was probably my favorite X-Men movie total. I think it was obviously the best of like the 3 standalone X-Men movies, in my opinion. Obviously, Origins, not great. The Wolverine, I'm actually fine with that movie, but it's not one that I want to necessarily go and watch again. I think I watched it once, and I'm fine with that. But man, this movie is so good. And there are other, First Class is still a great X-Men movie, and I'll always have a place in my heart for the first X-Men movie, because that's what got me into comic books. I've told the story many, many times, but like my dad is a huge comic book nerd, and he took me to the first X-Men movie by myself. It was him and me, and that was the first time. We have a big family, and it was the first time like him and I just did something together. Just like as a father-son bonding thing. And he took me to see that movie, and it like changed my whole world. It was so cool. And I dressed as the movie Wolverine, the movie version of Wolverine, like that following Halloween. I had fake mutton chops that I remember were a pain to take off at the end of the night. I had claws that my parents wouldn't let me, or my mom specifically wouldn't let me wear because she thought it was like too dangerous, or she'd be fine with it nowadays, but back then she was a little bit more strict about that sort of stuff. But yeah, that movie changed my whole world, and seeing this, I kind of glimpsed at an article earlier today saying that Hugh Jackman almost quit after X-Men Origins, and I'm so glad that he didn't, because this is the movie. I've seen a lot of people saying that Wolverine is like the movie that the fans deserve, and honestly, I think it's the movie that he deserves. It's the movie that he put all of his time and energy and dedication into this role, and it's such a perfect send-off for him that I would be extraordinarily disappointed if he came back for another movie, even in a cameo position. I think it marks the end of an era, and it is just the best way to do it, hands down. What else should we talk about, though? After I go on that mini spiel, what should we talk about? How bad is partial nudity? There was like more nudity in the Deadpool teaser than there was in this movie. There was like one brief scene in this movie where Logan he's like a limo driver to get money, and there's like a very brief moment where someone in his limo kind of flashes him a little bit, but like that's it, right? There was way more. It was fine. Like it meant nothing, right? Yeah, Caliban, Stephen Merchant, amazing. He was really great. He had a lot of good quips, a lot of good lines in there, and his sacrifice at the end was very heroic and a very cool thing to do. The mutant kids did seem really cool. I kind of got an X-Men 2 vibe a little bit when when people are raiding the school and some of the kids are using their powers. I thought that was really cool. Something I did want to talk about with the clone is obviously they set up the adamantium bullet. And this makes me wish that X-Men Origins was better. And I know that's not an original thought, but like X-Men Origins set up the adamantium bullet. And apparently he's been carrying that around with him for this whole time. And he said he was using it as a to kind of remember who he was, but also, thank you so much, Lovegun226, thank you so much for doing the super chat for $2. That is awesome. Yes, my thoughts on X-23. I will absolutely get to that. Let me just finish my thought about the adamantium bullet real fast. But thank you so much again. You're awesome. Yes. So the adamantium bullet. I like how they kind of teased that he was thinking about killing himself with it, and then technically that came true. He didn't kill the clone, but the clone was killed, which is, a clone of him, so he did die by getting shot in the head with an adamantium bullet. I thought that was pretty cool. Another thing that I didn't think about either was the adamantium poisoning him in his own skeleton, and that's why he was being weakened. I don't know if that was ever released as a part of notes press release for the movie or anything, but that was a brand new idea to me that I went into the movie not knowing, and I thought, wow, that's a good idea, actually, because they kept teasing there's something in you and you got a sickness, and I was like, what is it? And he's like, it's adamantium. That makes sense to me, that it's adamantium poisoning, because that's even something that he has to deal with in the comic books, so makes total sense. Yes, Lovegun226 did donate, did use the super chat. People are asking about that, and they asked me for my thoughts on X-23. The actress who plays her, and I cannot remember her name. Someone will write it in the chat, and it'll ring a bell. But I felt like she got the physicality of the role down. Everything, every fight scene, every just action, she felt very animalistic, which reminded me a lot of Wolverine. It was like in X-Men Apocalypse. Daphne Keane, that's right. Thank you guys. It reminded me a lot of Wolverine in X-Men Apocalypse, where he's just kind of like this animal that's released. He's like this force of nature. And that's kind of what she felt like. Everything, even in the trailer when she kind of did that move where she took her backpack off, I was like, holy cow. That was it's very animalistic, and it's very intimidating for this little tiny girl. And she did a fantastic job. And then when she starts speaking Spanish, when she finally opens up, because she's mute throughout the whole movie, and she, after Charles dies, she's in the car with Logan, and she finally kind of opens up and starts talking, and then it's just lots of yelling back and forth between the two of them, which is awesome. It was a ton of fun to watch. It was a lot of it was a good bonding moment between them. They had a good rapport, even though they couldn't understand each other most of the time. It was awesome. X-24 or Sabretooth, says Steve Oldham. That's a good question. I heard that Sabretooth was supposed to be in this movie, but they changed it, I guess. I don't know. I feel like they could probably not do. They don't have to keep doing Sabretooth in these movies. But I guess it would have been a good way to bookend it, because that is one of the first fights he has in the first X-Men movie. Hans Gauger. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Thank you so much for the $2. You are awesome. How did I feel about the Deadpool short? Yeah, so I thought it lasted a little bit longer than it needed to. But I really enjoyed it. It was a nice surprise. I had no idea it was coming. I thought the movie had started, and I actually thought it was a part of the movie. So it's this hilarious moment of him trying to change Clark Kent style in a phone booth, and it was just so it was funny. It was very funny. There's some like visual jokes, like writing on the phone booth too, and it's just lots of delaying getting into action, and yeah. But I mean, it was a good surprise. It was absolutely a lot. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was good. I quite enjoyed it. Yeah. So let's see what else we got in the comments. Yeah, rather see New Mutants be the kids from Logan than be a team from present day, honestly. Yeah, so this is what I've seen a lot of people say, that they wish that there could be some sort of time jump backwards with X-23 to bring that character back in time with the rest of the X-Men, I guess, and have her fight. I don't think that's necessary. I think they can easily take it from where the movie ends, or even a little bit later, and just have her kind of trying to live up to Wolverine, because if they do if they skip backwards in time, if they bring her back in time, then Wolverine's gonna be alive. So it's like, what's the point? Yeah, I think she's fine as is. I think setting the X-Men movies in the future, right, is also totally fine. Yeah, what did I think about the scene at the dinner table where they're talking about how Charles used to have a school? That scene around the dinner table was one of my favorite moments of the movie, because it's just these amazing character moments. Whereas the X-Men movies are usually known for just these like massive final battles where everything is being torn apart and whatever. This movie had a lot more quieter, character-driven moments, and that was one of them that I thought was really good and really entertaining, and just very heartfelt too. Just seeing seeing Professor X and Logan finally get along, like throughout this whole movie, and then also to see X-23 just have, she's smiling, but then of course that whole family was just butchered, just slaughtered by everybody. Oh man, that was horrible. And then even the father almost killed Logan, but ran out of bullets. That was, oh man, I feel real bad for that family. Look, here's the lesson, guys. Here's the lesson about Wolverine. If you are like a rural family out on a farm somewhere, and Wolverine comes to your door, do not let him in, okay? Do not invite him into your home. We saw this in X-Men Origins, right? We saw this in this movie. Anytime Logan is on a farm with a family, they always die. Don't let him in your farm, guys. Come on. Simple life lessons like that. Oh boy. I apologize if my stream is bad. I don't know what's happening, but I keep getting notifications that my video settings are real bad. So I apologize for that. My internet service provider is real dumb. But yeah. What do you think about all the henchmen having biotic limbs to counter their animalistic strength? I thought that was kind of interesting. There was like one guy who had a gun for a hand, which just seems impractical in the long run. But I thought it was kind of cool. So everyone in this movie dies? Yeah, basically. Kinda. I also thought, again, wanting X-Men Origins to be better and everything. Like we have seen like the whole family tree of Stryker's, right? We saw we saw Stryker's father in First Class. We saw Stryker himself in 4 different movies by 3 different actors. And then we see his son. Is it his son, I think, in this one? And then his death was a lot of fun because he's just in the middle of a bad guy monologue, as they do, and then just gets shot and dies, which is a lot of fun. I hope Daphne continues to play X-23. She did a fantastic job. Like I said, I think she nailed the physicality of the role and was terrifying. Just a force of nature, and was super, super fun to watch. what did I think about the Foot Claw explanation? I felt it was unnecessary, but I felt like it was absolutely within Charles's character to explain it. He kind of explained it about how because she is a female, he relates it to female lions and how they would have to be the hunters and the protectors or whatever of the pride, so they would have both forward and backwards claws, so that's kind of like a evolutionary thing. It's absolutely within... someone's getting... All right. But it's absolutely within his character, because even like if you relate it back to X-Men First Class, like he's just in a bar talking about evolution. It's a groovy thing, man. And it's just it kind of, you know, fits him to during a little bit of silence in a car ride for him to just go, "Oh yes, evolution. Let's talk about it." So that was a lot of fun. Yes, absolutely. I would say definitely see this movie in theaters. It's great. Didn't they say Rice was Stryker's son? Did I misinterpret that? I apologize. I thought they did. I thought they were like, didn't I kill him? Yes, you did. He was my father. He did the thing. Okay, cool. Either way, I don't know. I was very emotional during this movie. I couldn't, and that was, you know, who knows. You mean X-Men Evolution? You're right. Thank you. Yeah, so they did say that thing in the movie. I thought so too. Cool. Thanks, gang. Yeah. I also thought. Let's see. What are the questions we got here? How long have we been going? We're going for a half hour. Let's just chat for a bit. Here. I'm just looking through the comments here. Yeah, so they were saying her foot claws were a part of the her biology, but the doctors put the claws in. So I would think that she had the bone claws. I don't think that was ever explicitly stated, but I think she probably initially had the bone claws, and then they did a Weapon X type procedure to make those claws adamantium. So it's not like they just gave her claws out of nowhere. It was that she was a clone, a female clone of Wolverine, and so her biology was a little bit different. And then they were like, well, if we're gonna clone Wolverine, we might as well go all out and give her metal claws too. $5 from the boss level 8 guys wanting me to answer the question, can Wolverine get diarrhea? I think in this movie, the answer is yes, because he's so poisoned and injured and horrible. But in general, you know, that's a great question. There are different types. There are different types of diarrhea, guys. So what are we talking about here? There's like runner's diarrhea, which is not really a sickness, but it's just like more of a physical thing. If you run a lot, which he does, he runs all the time. So I would say yes. We're answering the real questions here, guys. Wolverine, diarrhea, can it happen? I would say yes. But yeah. Oh yeah, so in the comics, the bone knives are the only parts covered in adamantium. Not a full adamantium skeleton. But yeah, thanks for the $5. Thanks for getting me to talk about diarrhea as everyone abandons the stream right now because it's such a ridiculous thing to talk about. Would I want someone new casted as Wolverine? Asks Dan of 3000. Look, here's the thing. It's inevitably gonna happen. If superhero movies continue, they're going to continue on. They're gonna make more X-Men movies. They've already recast like other X-Men a lot, right? They've had 3 different Cyclopses. I don't know. They've had 3 different ones, right? They've also had, multiple Charles Xaviers. They've had multiple Magnetos. Everyone in the First Class whole stuff. It's all great. Are they going to recast Wolverine? Probably at some point. Do I want them to do it soon? No. I think they should give it some time. Give it some time. And I think honestly, if I were to continue in this universe, which is what seems like they want to do, they want to continue on with this universe, then yeah, have X-23 take over as kind of the new Wolverine. Well, I say it in quotes, but like even in the comics, she is Wolverine. So it's like, yeah, there's precedent for it. I think it's fine. I've seen a lot of people recommend Tom Hardy. I would say no to Tom Hardy only because I want the break between actors to be long enough that by the time, if we, cast him again and it is Tom Hardy, that he'd be like an old guy at that point. They're probably going to not wait a couple years. They're probably going to do it immediately. New Wolverine movie next year. Calling it. Yeah. Do you think? Nah, probably not. Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments. What did I think about Wolverine not wearing a costume? That's a good question. They definitely teased him wearing a costume a lot. The director even said that he doesn't like the idea of Wolverine wearing a costume because he felt like Wolverine is the character who would mock costumes, who wouldn't understand costumes and wouldn't get it. And I don't know if I agree with that 100%. As I kind of said in a mini Twitter rant when that news came out, Wolverine is a soldier. He he knows the importance of a uniform, and he knows the importance of wearing one to symbolize shared beliefs and ideals between Professor Xavier and the X-Men and everything like that. I think if it was presented like that, obviously he's worn a costume before in other X-Men movies, but if we're talking about his classic costume, and if that is too silly for him to wear, if it's too ridiculous to see Hugh Jackman in there, I would say they could trust your costume designers, because they could absolutely figure something out that would make it work and make it look good. But to not even try it, I thought there was gonna be. So what's weird to me in this movie is that we saw action figures and comic books where Wolverine is wearing his classic costume, which says to me that if they're pulling those events from real life, it says to me that at some point in this universe, he probably did wear something at least a little bit similar to that. Yes, I apologize for the video lagging. Like I said, my internet is really bad. I don't know why, but it's fine. Slim44 I'm sorry. Thank you for the $2. You're awesome. They ask thoughts on Professor X's brain disease paralyzing everyone. I thought that was actually a really cool plot device. I thought it was really interesting, that especially the way they described it was a degenerative brain disease and the world's most dangerous brain. They even make several attempts to tell you that, he has the most dangerous brain on the planet, that it's classified as like a weapon of mass destruction. And it, him getting older means, he's gonna probably succumb to some diseases, to, whatever. They never really explained specifically what it was, but it was, some sort of degenerative brain disease. And it's especially the opening scene where we see him and he's just rambling to himself, and he's not the Professor X that we knew. He's much more grumpy, he's much more crazy, and it was an interesting dynamic they introduced to the movie. Someone asked why no end credits scene. I think if I had to say, I'm glad there was no end credit scene, because that final shot of the movie where the cross was turned over into an X was so beautiful. I wanted to leave with that image just burned into my eyes. I didn't want to see anything else. I didn't want there to be an end credit scene to kind of ruin that, moment. LoveGun226 again coming in with the $2 in the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Better costume, blue and yellow or brown and yellow? That's a great question. I would love to know all your thoughts in the chat right now. Blue and yellow, brown and yellow. I love the blue and yellow so much because it reflects the rest of the team well, because that's traditionally the X-Men kind of color scheme. But I think the brown and yellow, it feels much more natural and much more like it. I don't know. It kind of reflects his character a bit more. Yeah, I might go brown and yellow. I'm like trying to do I lock that in as my final answer? I don't know. I love the blue and yellow so much. Yeah, I'll go brown and yellow. I think that's what I'm going to say. Brown for this movie, if we had to pick specific movies. But yeah. Do I think Magneto died at one point, or do I think Laura will find him with other mutants in like a safe haven? It's a good question. You know, I don't know if Ian McKellen is done with Magneto, or if he's going to continue on at some point. If they bring him on, it might be cool. It might be cool to kind of see him in more of a good guy role, almost like another. Well, my problem with that is if we take that to his logical conclusion, then he's just going to be another Professor X type thing where he's going to kind of try to mentor Laura a little bit, and then he's going to die, and then we just keep killing off all the great characters, but it's fun. Yeah, can I just talk about the comics, because some people are talking about the comics and Eden and everything. I totally misunderstood the slight reveal when Logan was looking through the comic books and he found the destination, the points for Eden, right? I was like, wait, is there a comic book writer out there who's planting secret information to help mutants? And I was like, wait, no, that's dumb. That doesn't make sense. No, it's just the girl, Laura's mom, or Laura's caretaker, just kind of got that information from a comic to make it up, to give him hope. In that moment, I realized how much of an idiot I was. Yeah, do you wish we could have seen the X-Men killed in all the flashbacks? Definitely. I talked about this earlier. I think the vagueness helps tell the story a little bit better. It helps us imagine it so that whatever actually happens, whatever the specific details are of how people died, is a little bit more brutal in our heads than what would probably be on film. But I don't know. Now that I say that, I mean, the movie was brutal already, so who knows? Seriously, do a Deadpool video. Haha, I've done plenty. Yeah. What if I used a blind Cyclops instead of an old Charles? Ooh, that would be interesting. My problem with that is I think Charles Xavier has been set up in these movies way better than Cyclops. They never do anything with Cyclops. They cast him 3 different times, and he's just like, he's there. He just does things. If they had taken the time to build out his character, I think it would have been absolutely awesome if instead of Charles Xavier, they had Cyclops there, because the two of them are always constantly fighting with each other, and bickering, and it plays into the idea that, in the comic book, again, Hawkeye was blind, and I would like that idea of a blind Cyclops. It would be kind of interesting, and having, like, Logan have to point him at villains or whatever. That would be neat. I would enjoy that. But yeah, James Mangold said he'd be interested in working on X-23 film. Awesome. Very excited about that. I would love that so much. Hugh Jackman said he would have still played Wolverine if he was in the MCU. That's never gonna happen, though. Fox loves their X-Men. This is maybe an unpopular opinion to have. I don't know, but I kind of want the X-Men and the MCU to stay separate. I think the X-Men have such a broad and vast universe on their own that they don't need to be with the Avengers. Even in the comic books, a lot of the times it feels like they're on their own. They're in their separate universe. And I kind of like it that way. It makes things a little bit cleaner. And that way we don't have to try to be like, wait, how come the Avengers never mentioned mutants existing in this world before? Yeah, I think it would be fine if they kind of stayed separate. My opinion, though. I would like, obviously, your opinion may vary. How many movies do I think X-23 will be in? as many as they can milk. I think absolutely they're going to use her as a new Wolverine. Instead of recasting Wolverine, they're just going to keep using X-23 because, in my opinion, she was awesome. Whether or not the movies are going to continue to be R-rated, that's a question. I don't know. They took a big risk with an R-rated Wolverine movie, or at least the studios think they did. But it was totally worth it, and I don't know if they would continue that trend. They might do a PG-13 X-23 movie and make it less brutal. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a reason they cast her so young because it kind of helped the dynamic between the two of them. But also it's just practical because if you're gonna get an actor to do a whole franchise, start it off young and build forward. That way you can keep them around for as long as possible. Fox will own R-rated movies, maybe. That'd be good. That'd be fine to me as long as they give something to the role, right? Like, I don't need them to just be R-rated for no reason. But if the story calls for it, then yeah, I'd be totally down for that. This movie in particular felt like it needed to be R-rated. It felt like it was a great send-off to the character, and yeah, like I said earlier, it felt like we finally got to see Wolverine officially pop his claws out and just let loose. Whereas before, it seemed like he was holding back a little bit. This was just like a Wolverine who didn't care. He just wanted to kill people. Yeah, the R is needed only if the character needs it. Exactly. It doesn't need to be every single movie. The MCU will never be R-rated? Yeah, probably not. They like their money too much. That they would probably not want to isolate an entire section of their demographic by making an R-rated movie. Yeah. Yeah, Old Man in the Sea meets Wolverine. That's true. That's a nice Old Man Logan. Yeah, a lot of F-bombs. Even from characters I was not expecting. Something I did want to talk about briefly, because I keep forgetting to mention it, is I like the way that, so in the comic book, one of the driving forces, kind of a pun, is the Hulk family, right? It's like this horribly inbred family who is trying to like collect rent or whatever from Logan on a farm, and they kind of paying homage to that with those with that one family that or that one group of people, I don't know if they were a family, they feel like they were, who kind of confronted Wolverine and the other family that with the horses that they found. It was like they tried to tell that part of the story, and then everyone got murdered. It was a good time. But yeah. Logan showed DC how to kill off their main characters. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when DC killed off Superman, I didn't feel anything for Superman because he hadn't been established. But Wolverine's been around for 17 years, and Professor X as well. Like, yeah, freaking it made me. You know what's gonna happen, guys? The next X-Men movie will be the first X-Men movie, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it will be the first X-Men movie that does not feature Hugh Jackman in any capacity. Because he's been in cameos, he's been in leading roles, in at least some form of all the X-Men movies. And now he is not. He won't be. And that is truly the end of an era. Any nitpicks or complaints? Good question. If I do have complaints, they are just nitpicks. So, for example, I did feel like the clone was a bit weird at first. But yeah, I embraced it because I was like, yeah, of course Hugh Jackman is the only one who can take down Hugh Jackman. It makes sense. I also said that I didn't really feel too much about the way Charles died. I felt a lot at his funeral, but not at his death. Necessarily. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, there are not a lot of complaints and nitpicks that I have. It ran a little long, but I didn't feel like it was slow. It felt like it was a ton of action going on. Yeah. I don't know. Do you guys have any nitpicks or complaints that maybe I'm forgetting? Yeah, it's a perfect send-off for Hugh Jackman. I agree. Doesn't need to come back. Yeah. When I think about the tinfoil Wolverine. Yeah, when they had everybody get murdered, it's like you thought it was just a dream, but no, just kept happening. People just kept getting murdered. Adamantium bullets don't make sense. I would say, look, here's the thing about anything like that where it doesn't necessarily make sense, right? Where, like, physically or whatever. If the movie establishes it, I think if it's a movie, right, if it's a fictional universe of any kind, not just a movie, you're allowed to establish your own rules as long as you stick to those rules. And I think that if they set up in X-Men Origins, hey, by the way, adamantium bullets can go through an adamantium skeleton. My problem with that is when Wolverine got shot in X-Men Origins, he didn't die. He just lost his memories and healed again. This Wolverine just murdered. Just face blown completely off. So, I don't know. I guess that's a tiny nitpick. Who knows? But also, it didn't seem like this Wolverine, like the clone Wolverine, had a good healing factor, or as good of a healing factor as Hugh Jackman's real Wolverine in its prime, because he had to continue to get serum to heal a little bit better. So I don't know. Maybe that's an excuse. Am I just making excuses up? Origins was retconned in Days of Future Past? Yeah, probably. Probably everything was retconned in Days of Future Past. Wouldn't X-23 have died when the adamantium was cast on her skeleton because she was younger? I don't know. Maybe. But maybe she did. Did they say that she had a full adamantium skeleton, or that she just had adamantium claws? X-24 didn't have a metal skeleton, so probably the same thing then, where it just wasn't a full metal skeleton. Yeah, I'm seeing the chat say things, like, because there is a bit of a delay. I'm like seeing the chat say, like, I'm saying things and then the chat is saying things. So like that. Yeah. Anyway. Adamantium claws only, not a full skeleton, and yes, he had to rely on the serum for healing. Yes, I agree. Those make sense to me. I think that should be fine. Yeah, that's a really great point. If she did have a full adamantium skeleton, she probably wouldn't grow anymore, because the metal would just keep her short, keep her bones from growing. It's a really good point. And is probably the explanation they use in the comics. It has been a while. Favorite joke in the movie? Man. There were some good ones. I really enjoyed just like the small talk that they had around the dinner table about like just them going back and forth about like he owns a school. It's a very niche school. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, the I want to pee line was funny. Nathan Summers coming soon. Yeah, the I have to pee is probably everyone's favorite. Yeah. Xavier was pretty random. Yeah, I think it almost felt like he was tapping into TV signals. These are all special needs school. Why was Caliban's DNA taken after he died? I think it was mostly just because that's like the nature of the bad guys, what they do. They were just like, hey, we're gonna continue to cloning and making things to control. That was okay. Now that I'm remembering it, here's a small nitpick from earlier because somebody asked me, like, the idea that mutants have kind of slowed off because of like corn syrup, like that. I get what they were trying to do, and sure, it's almost like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing where people start with like the reverse, where people got their powers from fish oil pills or whatever. This was mutants started disappearing because of just like foods. Daniel Marcus, thank you so much for the $2. You are awesome, sir. Everyone give some shout outs to Daniel Marcus here. What did I think about all the mutants vanishing? Yes, I think I'm currently addressing that. But yeah, no, I think it makes sense that they would want to get rid of mutants for this movie. There was speculation that there was a virus that was killing mutants off, right? Similar to some stuff that we've seen in the comic books before, but this was more of a genetically engineered type of thing that this organization put in everyone's food or something like that. But yeah, I think it made sense that they would want to kill off mutants. It just didn't feel like a great explanation, in my opinion. This is all tiny nitpicks, again, right? This is not like a huge problem I had with the movie. Just little nitpicks. Should you see it in IMAX? I don't know. I didn't see it in IMAX. I saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse, so I ate really good food while I watched it. Yeah, the legacy virus, you guys know. You think that the Caliban DNA thing was supposed to be a setup for something to come in later movies? Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Could have. Another, other than a legacy virus, it could have been a no more mutants type of a thing. We haven't seen Scarlet Witch set up in this universe, but we know that they do share the rights with Marvel. So it is possible, if there was some sort of weird backstory that we didn't hear of, that maybe that happened. There was no talk about it, and the explanation that we got was that it was just, putting chemicals or things in the food. So yeah, that's probably the explanation we will go with. We're probably gonna close down here for a bit. We've been talking for an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah. Well, you were surprised that instead of Hugh Jackman's butt, we got a bridesmaid's boobs. I feel like we've had enough Hugh Jackman butt, but is that ever true? Can you have enough? I don't think so. Well, don't say bye just yet. We have like 3 more minutes. I was just saying we're closing down soon, just so you guys know. Final thoughts on the movie. Should you watch it? Absolutely, super good. Like I said in the title here, it's probably my favorite. I say best X-Men and Wolverine movie, but really it's an opinionated thing. I think it is my favorite. I'm gonna probably watch it again, and probably when I'm alone, so I can actually cry, because I was so not in the right area to cry when I watched it in theater surrounded by a bunch of people. But I will allow myself that opportunity to just sob uncontrollably. Yes, I want to know how many people got teary-eyed, how many people cried like I did. I absolutely shed like 1 or 2 tears, but I was holding back significantly because I wanted to just pour rivers of tears out of my eyeballs. It was so emotional and so satisfying of an ending. Yeah, it is by far the best Wolverine film of the 3, and it's one of the best X-Men films. I agree, for sure. Scott cries? Yeah, dude. I never cry at like real life things. It's very hard for me to get emotional about real life things, like sad anyway. I get excited about a lot of stuff and angry about things, but never sad in real life. In movies though, God, I will cry all the frickin' time because movies get me. I don't know. It's like it's the music and the visuals and the characters, and yeah, this movie was very good. It was very, very good. All right, we'll probably end it about exactly an hour or a little bit over, but thank you everyone for watching. We're going to be doing a ton more of these live streams this month because there's a lot of movies and TV shows that are coming out. We're going to do an Iron Fist one. We're probably going to do a Power Rangers one. And we're going to do like another comment response live stream at the end of the month too. So if you like these, then I hope you'll show up for the next ones. That would be a lot of fun. And we're trying these out, right? We're just testing them out a little bit for this month, and we will see how people like them, how people respond to them. If you guys say, Scott, you're doing these way too much, then I'll stop. But for at least this month, we'll probably do a few more of these. So, cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone who participated in the super chat, especially just some last shout outs to everyone. We got LoveGun226. We got Hans Googer Gauger. We've got Boss Level 8. We've got Slim 41 third something. We got LoveGun again and Daniel Marcus. Thank you guys for being awesome and for being generous. And man, this has been a ton of fun, and I can't wait to do more of these. All right, now to attempt to end this without stopping in the middle of a sentence. Bye, everyone.